Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья! У нас сегодня с вами вебинар по английскому языку, и мы сегодня с вами поговорим о загадках и историях России XVIII века. Если вы к нам присоединяетесь, я прошу поставить ваши реакции в чат, и мы начнем буквально через несколько секунд. So while you are writing something in our chat, I would like you to ask this question. What do you know about the 18th century? I give you like 20 seconds to think about and to write down your ideas in our chat. Okay, time is up. 18th century is famous for its beautiful balls with dancing and beautiful music. It is famous for the first university foundation in Russia. Of course, it is famous for St. Petersburg Foundation, and in 1703, Peter the Great decided to found the city. 18th century is famous for so-called window to Europe, when Peter the Great decided to change Russia in European style. And 18th century is so-called Palace Revolution century, when the rulers were changed very quickly one by one, and different rebellions and revolutions happened. Great job! Before we start our journey to some mysteries of Russian history, let's look at useful vocabulary that we will need today. So I will read it for you, translate, and your task is to repeat after me. Let's start. To establish empire, создать империю. To modernize, модернизировать, обновить. To found, основать. To extend, расширить. To develop, развивать. Rebellion, восстание. Prophecy, пророчество. Doppelganger, двойник. Okay, so vocabulary task for all of you. Let's complete these sentences with the words in the box to make some phrases. So we have the following words in the box: extend, modernize, develop, establish, prophecy, doppelganger, found. So I give you like 20 seconds to think, and then we will check. If you want, you can write down answers in our chat, and I would be glad to read something from you. Okay, let's check. Number 1, to establish empire. Number 2, to modernize the country. Number 3, to found the city. Number 4, to extend country's borders, расширить границы страны. Number 5, to develop new lands. Number 6, to get a prophecy. Number 7, to be replaced by a doppelganger. Быть заменяться двойником. Well done. So, Let's look at these pictures. Do you know what two great rulers lived in the 18th century? Pictures here can help you to guess. I'm sure you know them. So some time for you to think about. Sure, it was Peter the Great and Catherine the Great. Well done. Okay, let's try to remember what did Peter and Catherine the Great do in Russia in their times. We have some phrases in the box. Let's read them together. Established an empire, modernized the country in the European style, found the access to the Baltic Sea, founded St. Petersburg, extended borders, participated in the political and cultural life of Europe, and developed art. So, what did Peter the Great do and what did Catherine the Great do? So, some time for you to think and write your answers in our chat. So let it be 30 seconds for you to think. Okay, let's check. So what did Peter the Great do? He established an empire, he modernized the country in the European style, he found the access to the Baltic Sea, and he founded St. Petersburg. Let's look at Catherine the Great. She extended borders, participated in the political and cultural life of Europe, and developed art. So well done. As we know, 18th century in Russian history was full of rebellions, palace revolution, art development, and territory extensions. But there was something interesting and a little bit mysterious events in Russian history. Let's go back in time and have a closer look on it. We have 3 interesting and mysterious events today. Peter the Great was replaced, Potemkin village, and the prophecy for Pavel I. Let's start with Peter the Great was replaced. So, right now we are going to read and listen to text about Peter the Great. Your task is to listen to me very carefully, because after that I will ask you a question. What do you think about this story? Let's start. Peter the Great was replaced. There is a legend that Peter the Great was replaced by his doppelganger when he was studying in Holland. According to this belief, Peter was kidnapped in Holland, where he was traveling incognito. He was put into a prison, and his doppelganger went back to Russia and started to reform the country and make it like in Europe. This story was widely discussed by people who did not like all the reforms. There is no facts that can prove this legend. However, many historians believe that this could happen because his reforms were very strange and untypical for that society. So, you have listened to this text, and tell me please, what do you think about this legend? Do you think, is it true? I personally do not believe in this legend, but as you can see, it still exists. Okay, Our task is to read this sentence and decide which sentences are true and which are false. Let's start. Number 1. Peter the Great was studying in Holland. 20 seconds for you to think. Is it true or false? Okay, so let's check. Sorry, we have some technical problems. Of course, it is true. Peter the Great was studying in Holland, and here we can find it in the text. Number 2. According to the most popular belief, Peter was kidnapped in Germany. So, some time for you to think and find the answer. Is it true or false? So, of course, it's false, because according to the legend, Peter was kidnapped in Holland, and here we can find the proof in the text. Number 3. His doppelganger went back to Russia and started to change the country and make it like in Asia. So, some time for you to think. I think it's quite easy, because of course it's false, to make it like in Europe, and we all know that. Number 4. This legend is proved by historical facts. Some time for you to think about. Sure, it's false, because there is no fact that can prove this legend. And number 5. The reason why many people believed that Peter the Great was replaced is that his reforms were very strange and untypical for that society. So, some time for you to think about this and find the proof in the text. Don't forget about it. Sure, it's true, and here we can find the proof in the text. So, well done. Now, let's go to our next stop, and this is Potemkin village. Your task is to listen and read the text after me. Let's start. Grigory Potemkin was a minister of the Russian Empress Catherine II. Catherine II, with her court and several ambassadors, made a 6-month trip to New Russia in order to see how new lands were developing. Potemkin wanted to impress Catherine II. He created mobile villages. As soon as the barge carrying the empress and ambassadors arrived, Potemkin's men, dressed up as people of this region, would pretend that they lived in the village. Once Catherine II left and went to visit another place, the village was moved and quickly rebuilt at the next stop of the empress. Modern historians are discussing what degree of the truth is behind the Potemkin village story. Some authors believe that this is the real story, while other writers argue that the story is a fake. No one knows the truth. So, what is your opinion? Do you think it is true? I give you some time to think about it. Okay, so no one knows, we have only opinions. I don't believe in this story, but maybe one day we will know exactly what had happened. Alright, our next task is to choose the correct answer. We have 4 questions and 4 answers. 3 answers, A, B or C. Your task is to choose the one that fits the best. Let's start with number 1. Grigory Potemkin was a minister of the Russian Empress, a friend of Catherine the First, a famous Russian warrior. So, I'll give you some time to think about and mark the correct answer. Okay, sure, it's A, a minister of the Russian Empress. Number 2. What is Potemkin village? A, a new village in New Russia. B, a mobile village made to impress Catherine II. And C, a name of the new region. Some time for you to think about and write your answer in our chat. Sure, it's B, a mobile village made to impress Catherine II. Well done. Number 3. Why did Catherine II go to a 6-month trip? A, she wanted to relax. B, she wanted to visit her old friend. C, she wanted to see how new lands were developing. 10 seconds for you to think. Sure, it's C. She wanted to see how new lands were developing. And number 4. Is the story considered to be a real one? Option A. There is no common opinion about it. B. Yes, historians are sure that it is true. C. No, historians are sure that it is a fake. Historians, I'm sorry. 10 seconds for you to think about. Sure, there is no common opinion about it. Well done. And last but not the least, we have one more legend to look at today. It's the prophecy for Pavel I. The task is again quite simple. You have to listen to my reading for you and read the text after me. Let's start. The prophecy for Pavel I. There is the legend that Pavel I wanted to know what would happen to his family, and he visited Aval, a monk who was famous for his prophecies. According to the legend, Aval told Pavel about his death, Napoleon's War, death of Catherine the Great, the World War I, and the death of the royal family in the 20th century. Pavel I wrote a letter for his family and asked them to read it in 100 years. The letter was opened in the beginning of 20th century by Nikolai II. After reading the letter, he told that the year 1918 would be very dangerous for the royal family. What do you think about this legend? It's very mysterious. And here on the pictures you can see Pavel I and monk Aval. So some time for you to write down and share your ideas if you want to. Alright, so again, this legend is so to say, a real one, a real story. There was a letter that Nikolai II opened, but there is no proof that Aval wrote something very dangerous. Maybe it was just a letter for his future children. We don't know for sure. But the letter existed. Alright, so let's answer these questions. The first one. What predictions did Aval tell Pavel? You can find the answer in the text. I give you 20 seconds to think and find it. The text is quite short. I think you can do it very fast. Okay, the answer is right here. Aval told Pavel about his death, Napoleon's War, death of Catherine the Great, the World War I, and the death of the royal family in the 20th century. Well done. Question number 2. Did Pavel I tell anyone about the prophecy? I give you some time to think and find the answer in the text. And if you want, you can write answers in our chat. Okay, the answer is right here. Pavel I wrote a letter for his family and asked them to read it in 100 years. So, technically, he told his family about the prophecy, but 100 years later. And question number 3. Did his family believe him? I give you some time to think, find the answer, and write down it if you want to. Okay. After reading the letter, he told that the year 1918 would be very dangerous for the royal family, so we can say that his family believed him in some way. Okay, well done. We have listened and read 3 mysteries. Let's see. Do you remember their titles? There are some pictures for you that can help you. Some time for you to think, and if you want to share your ideas, you are very welcome to write it down. Okay, let's check your ideas. So yes, you were right. The titles were the following. Peter the Great was replaced, Potemkin village, and the prophecy for Pavel I. Let's divide these facts according to the story. Let's read the facts that are in the box. Mobile villages, Avel, traveling incognito, doppelganger, made the 6-month trip to New Russia, Peter the Great, Nikolai II, World War I, Grigory Potemkin, studied in Holland, wrote a letter for his family, Catherine II, predictions. So we give you some time to think and divide these facts according to the story. Okay, I think it's time to finish and check this exercise. So, Peter the Great was replaced, and we have here Peter the Great, so there's traveling incognito, doppelganger, studied in Holland, Potemkin village, and we have here mobile villages, Grigory Potemkin, Catherine II, made a 6-month trip to New Russia. And the story number 3, the prophecy for Pavel I. It's Nikolai II, Avel, World War I, wrote a letter for his family, predictions. So great job, you did everything correct. So, which mystery of the history of Russia in the 18th century do you like most of all? I just remind you that we have read about Peter the Great was replaced, about his kidnapping in Holland and replacing by a doppelganger. We have read about Potemkin's village, a mobile village that helped Grigory to show that he was developing a new land. And the prophecy for Pavel I, some predictions for the royal family that appeared to be true. So maybe do you like the first, the second, or all 3? Some time for you to think and write down your ideas. Okay, yes, all 3 story was quite mysterious and very interesting, and as we live in Russia, we should know something interesting about our country and our history. So I hope that you liked our topic for today, and thank you very much for your great job. Наш вебинар подошел к концу, и я буду рада ответить на ваши вопросы, если они у вас есть. Вы можете задать их в чате. Спасибо вам большое за работу, и буду рада видеть вас на следующей неделе. До свидания.